Hey, this is Time Bomb, and if it's your first time checking out the channel, hit that subscribe button to catch all the updates. Thanks a lot for joining me here today. I'm doing a breakdown on the deep dive that they just went over on Madden's Twitch channel. They got over some big changes, I think, for Madden 20, and, you know, they're going for it, at least. Say what you will about what they're doing, but they're at least making an effort to change the game and how it's going to go. Now, the first thing that they talked about was the pass mechanics changing, which I'm not too excited about because I personally use that touch pass a fair amount on deep bombs a lot. So they're getting rid of the double tap. The double tap will now be a pump fake mechanic, which seems like it's gonna, we talked about this in earlier videos, having this pump fake being more effective. We will see how it dumbs out the defense. It feels like it could be broken right away. My prediction is they end up patching it early, having to patch it because it's just such a big problem. And apparently Big Ben Roethlisberger, is going to have a special pump fake that they just touched on, that it does a bit more, but not specifically going into what it is exactly. But his special skill will have something to do with that. So I picture that especially being game-breaking. Lurk depth, which has been a big problem. You know, I think it's happened to us all. We're throwing a ball 25 yards down the field, and suddenly we're picked off, like, right at the line of scrimmage, a couple yards back. The linebackers have been able to jump way too high to make picks. So this has been addressed, and it's going to actually, it's basically limiting linebackers where they can jump, spec catch, and jump. So we'll see, I mean, if you have different positions. They said specifically linebackers, so that's concerning. What if you have a safety or deep or cornerback kind of playing in a position like that in a dollar a dime setup? So that's very concerning. But it'll give you some feedback, too, in the game, saying that that ball was out of reach, so you'll know. Another thing, too, being under pressure will have a much bigger effect on quarterbacks being able to throw accurately, throw power being affected, limiting throw on the run. All these things are going to be a big factor. So that is the kind of thing that you got to like, because pressure being effective and getting to quarterbacks, I think that's a good thing, because it could be a counter to a quarterback being very effective, right? If you can get pressure to him, you take away some of that ability. I think that's a good thing. That's the kind of gameplay stuff that I like. I worry about some of these other new things that they're adding in. So the next point that they had to bring up was their idea overall of it being fast to fun, where they want, less watching of replays and more playing the game. So that's a good thing. Less watching the game, more playing the game. I like that. So it's basically apparently a lot quicker from the play call to the line of scrimmage, which seems interesting, because that whole 7 seconds waiting for them to run out before you get there, hitting your hot roads, being limited. Maybe you just get right into it right away. So that could catch people off guard if they're just getting ready. I wonder if there will still be a time limit before you can snap the ball. We'll see how that works out, because, everyone's got a hot... Maybe if that's the case, then maybe being able to hot route and set up your play will be a thing of the past. So we will see how that breaks down. That's the big problem, too. We haven't been able to see this game at all, but in some sort of weird grid world where they just have some players kind of showing off the animations. That's the only time. So it is kind of weird. We don't really know what they're doing. They talked about the on-field trainer and the in-game feedback, that banner that comes across the top of the screen that'll be like under pressure, throw on the run, bad, whatever, like that is apparently updated and giving you a lot more and letting you know. The on-field trainer is apparently dynamic too, so it won't give you feedback for areas that you've already kind of surpassed or have mastered. So that's interesting to see how that will go over. And in the play call screen, before you actually get there, it will give you some new options on what exactly your opponent has or you have for your X Factor and their X Factor ability. So it can break down exactly how you can utilize those X Factors in play. So that will be interesting to see. Another thing, the next area here where we're talking about RPOs, the run-pass options, where this has been a big addition that people have wanted for years, because, there's a bunch of teams that have in the NFL that have been using these RPOs, and they haven't been able to effectively add them into the game, but it sounds like they've put in a lot of work to get them right. And they've kind of broken it down into having 3 different styles: the peak, the read, and the alert. So the peak basically has like no QB run, and it's like a read option. The read is like a triple option where you have the QB run as well as the handoff and passes. And then the alert, which is basically a run play, but it gives you a pre-snap you get a pre-snap read basically. The other two you can adjust after the snap of the ball, deciding what you do. This one, it's going to be automatic, where depending on, I'll talk about the alert first. Depending on where the numbers are, if you can run it to that side, then you will. If not, then it'll adjust either to basically like a slant or like a little like screen pass, a little underneath there, a little bubble screen kind of thing. I believe they said. I may have messed that up. So that'll automatically happen. Whereas the peak, you have no QB run, and it's basically you're reading the backside linebacker. So if he stays, then it's going to be in a run. But if he moves, then you're going to be able to pass on him, and it'll kind of read the route that it gives you based on that guy's movement, as I understand it, or what the play call would be for my thing. And then the read is like a QB. It's a QB run, like I said, has the QB run. Whereas the peak, you won't get into the QB run. The read you can, but the pitch is replaced with a pass. So you can, hand it off, run with the QB, or instead of pitching the ball out, you'll be able to pass to those receivers on those routes, and you'll have a bunch of different options. They said there's over 200 RPO plays in the game, and the reason that they were able to do this is because in the past, the way that the game was built is that it was set up so the way that handoffs had to happen was in a specific area, where now they're not as limited and where those handoffs will happen. So they're able to create a lot more motion with wideouts and have them come in a lot of different ways, which I think is really good because, I'm a big fan of the wide receiver quick out of like a single back ace, which has that wide receiver move over and, has some different plays where you fake it to him and do the halfback dive or some passing plays. And that's essentially what we're seeing, but with more motion from more players coming all over. And because of that, we'll be able to get, some specific plays like the jet sweep. They specifically mentioned that one. And as well, of course, the Philly special, which, we've seen that. People have wanted it for years. So finally, that's going to be added into the game as well. Now, they also talk about the playbooks that they are overhauling to be more like the real-life playbooks. Whereas they said before they were like a year behind, which, the playbooks were the same for like a number. Madden 17 to Madden 19, I think the playbooks were identical, except they just like nerfed a bunch and a couple. That was it. That was the only thing. They made like the slightest effort. So I get it's tough, but now they're overhauling them to be what they actually are in the game that year. Now last year they added the ability to update playbooks throughout the year, which they did not use, I think, even once. Maybe I'm mistaken and they did one time use it, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. So now they're planning to actually update it throughout the year and try to keep it as real life as possible, add plays in it, maybe take plays away, and make it represent what the teams are actually doing, which I think is a good thing. It both for, if playbooks lose a play or gain a play, they're going to become better playbooks, become more valuable, and you'll get market fluctuation based on that. So that's a good thing. That's helping the game economy, and I think just keeping the game fresh. If a play is overpowered, hopefully they will take it out. I think that's what everyone wants to see. If a play is too good, why not limit its use? They've got the numbers. I'm sure they're seeing how much their play called. Limit it. I think that would only make the game more fun to do those kind of things. So that's the end of all the playbook section. And then the last bit, RG and Z Farrells came out, and they just kind of hit through a bunch of different points that I'm going to kind of talk about here too with these. These are the legacy fixes that they kind of went over. They made a claim that the real player motion is much better than it has been, which we'll have to see it to believe it, because last year they said their real player motion was something, and it was something, all right. I'll give them that much. It was something going on there, but definitely it will take a lot to make it better. They seem impressed. They seem to be selling it like it's a better feature. They're even saying the lurk and pursuit is much better because of it, but that only time will tell if that is actually the case. And they're saying that the ball carrier moves have been revamped. Now the stiff arm is apparently better, which I've been using the stiff arm for years, so I kind of feel a little hurt that I've been making that mistake, I guess. Saying from the side specifically, it's going to be a lot more powerful, which makes sense because, someone's coming at your side and you stiff arm them. It should keep them at the distance, give you that room. They also talked about how users shouldn't be able to be faked out, like very rarely, if at all, it should happen. So that's a good thing, I think, because, if you're just standing there holding the left trigger, that should be the best counter to a spin move or whatever. And the spin and juke, as people would say, a lot of times that will automatically break tackles if you spin into a hit. Whereas now, if you spin and juke, that's very much less likely to happen. You have to actually, truck or try to get through them that way to break a tackle. It's not going to happen as much from the spin or juke. So I think that's a good thing to give the advantage to the defender in that case. They also talked a little bit about how the settings have been updated, so auto strafe will be off and it will default ball hawk on, because they made the point that those are the ways that everyone is pretty much playing. The strip ball is apparently much more responsive, and it's a higher risk to try it. You will get beat much more likely. And the biggest thing I think that I heard here was that the interception stumble recover, and the stumble recovery system overall has been revamped and improved, because I think we've all been there where we had a almost certain pick six get ruined by a stupid stumble where you gotta flick the stick and then still he doesn't get up, and then he gets hit again, he's stumbling the whole time. And I know I've lost games because of that for sure, having sure pick sixes, so I'm glad they fixed that. And the last thing that I should talk about here is the hot routes. You can see here, but depending on the X Factor players they have, there was one, the QB, pocket passer, field general, where he could get all of the hot route options available for all the receivers, regardless of what chems they have. That's going to be the hottest chem X Factor ability for sure. That's what a lot of people are going to want, because it'll make so many different players viable rather than just needing specific players who have those hot routes. So very interesting to see. I'm kind of excited for Madden 20 after watching this. It definitely seems like they're putting in some work to it. Like my girlfriend said, August 2nd. That's pretty soon. Yes, it is. So we'll see what they can do. Thanks a lot for checking out this video. I've been Time Bomb. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you later.